Tonight, our special transmission as a report shows Palestinian detainees in Israeli prisons are subject to starvation, severe beatings, and other forms of inhumane treatment. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I am Humaira Karodia. Today is the 157th day since Israel started its indiscriminate war on Palestine. In the last 24 hours, Israeli attacks in Gaza have killed 72 Palestinians. 129 have been wounded. In Dar el-Bala, an Israeli assault on a family home has killed 8 people. Israeli forces have again targeted aid seekers at the Kuwait roundabout. The attack killed 11 and injured more than 20 Palestinians. This brings the toll of aid seekers to 400. On February 29th, Israeli forces opened fire on aid seekers, killing 108 Palestinians. The victims were trying to get flour from aid trucks in the west of Gaza City. The World Health Organization chief says an aid mission has reached Al-Shifa hospital in northern Gaza. The aid mission has brought food and medical supplies. Gaza's health ministry says 2,000 medical workers in the north are facing famine. Israeli forces say they have killed over 100 fighters in Khan Yunis. The death toll from Israel's war on Palestine continues to mount. At the time of writing, Israeli attacks have killed 31,184 Palestinians. 27 of the victims have died due to malnutrition and dehydration. Another 8,000 are presumed dead under the rubble. 72,889 have been injured. Israel's revised death toll from Hamas's attacks stands at 1,139. A Hamas-linked website has issued a warning to Palestinians against cooperating with Israel to provide security to aid convoys. The Al-Majd security website cautions individuals and groups that such collaboration would be treated as collaborationism. The news comes after Israel's media reports say Israel is considering arming Palestinian factions for convoy security after the fighting ends. The website condemns such efforts as direct collaboration with the occupation and a betrayal. With Gaza's civil order strained and the police hesitant to provide security due to the risks from Israeli forces, aid distribution faces significant challenges. Despite plans for aid corridors, Hamas officials say that there is a need to end the conflict to address the humanitarian crisis effectively. A statement by the Palestinian NGO says Israel is subjecting more than 9,100 Palestinian detainees to starvation in its prisons. These include women, children, and the sick. The policy of starvation has worsened after Hamas's attacks. Palestinian Prisoner Society says Israeli authorities have been closing prisoners' canteens, confiscating food supplies, and reducing meal portions. The quality and quantity of food provided is insufficient, leading to health issues and significant weight loss among prisoners. Testimonies from released detainees show they have suffered starvation policy and deliberate humiliation to obtain food. They say prison authorities ask Gaza detainees to bark when bringing meals. Detainees are also deprived of religious practices. Those who attempt praying or reciting the Quran face assaults. The case of the martyr prisoner Muhammad Ahmed al-Sabar, who was held administratively, is one of the most prominent cases associated with the starvation policy and poor food. Al-Sabar suffered from intestinal problems before his arrest. The food, primarily pulses, caused severe bloating in his intestines, worsening his health until his death on February 8th. The Israeli Occupation Authority continues to detain his body. The number of prisoners in Israeli prisons exceed 9,100, including 3,558 administrative detainees. Around 200 of these detainees are children, and 61 are female prisoners. Palestinians detained from Gaza have reportedly shared similar accounts of starvation tactics and humiliation for food. In related news, Palestinian men returning to Gaza from Israeli detention share horrific accounts of torture. Survivors recount psychological and physical torment, including being burnt with cigarettes. They say they have endured mock executions, beatings, electric shocks, and dog attacks. Testimonies reveal sexual harassment and denial of necessities. One man says he was handcuffed, blindfolded, and detained in a metal cage for 42 days. At night, the detainees are forced to sleep naked on the floor with loud music playing all night long. Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported last week that at least 27 detainees from Gaza have died in Israeli military detention since October 7th. Israeli authorities deny mistreatment. The United Nations is investigating the allegations, including deaths in Israeli military facilities. Rights groups are seeking international intervention to address severe torture and ill treatment in Israeli custody. Muslim leaders in the US are urging to boycott public officials who have not called for a ceasefire in Gaza. The Majlis Ashura, an Islamic umbrella organization in New York, insists mosques refrain from hosting or inviting officials during Ramadan who have not supported the ceasefire. They condemn political silence on the Gaza conflict and demand elected officials uphold moral responsibilities. New York City Mayor Eric Adams faces criticisms for his silence on the issue. Council member Shahana Hanif is advocating for a boycott of Mayor Adams' events during Ramadan. In New Jersey, the Council of American Islamic Relations has also released a guide for mosques. The guide highlights their right to only welcome public officials to mosques who support the Gaza ceasefire. Belgium is intervening in South Africa's genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. The move aims to offer Belgium's interpretation of Article 2 of the 1948 United Nations Genocide Convention. The article defines the crime of genocide. A World Court statute grants states the right to intervene in interpreting conventions even if they are not directly involved in the dispute. Foreign Minister Hadja Lahbib says Belgium's intent is to strengthen the universality of international agreements and not to take sides. Specifics on Belgium's intervention remain unclear. The process can span several months. Israel faces accusations of genocide at the World Court. An interim ruling urges Israel to cease genocidal acts and ensure humanitarian aid to Gaza. Italian police have arrested 3 Palestinians in the city of L'Aquila on suspicion in involvement in a terrorist cell. The trio faced charges related to conspiracy to commit acts of terrorism and subversion of democratic order. The suspects are reportedly associated with the EU-designated terrorist group Brigades of the Al-Aqsa Martyrs. Israel has requested extradition for one individual. Police claims that they were engaged in recruitment, propaganda, and planning attacks, including suicide missions abroad. Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi has commended law enforcement agencies. He says Italy is committed to combat extremism and radicalization. The Indian government has announced the implementation of the controversial Citizenship Amendment Act. The act was enacted 4 years ago by the parliament. The act aims to grant citizenship to non Muslim minorities from neighboring countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan. Home Minister Amit Shah has confirmed the law's forthcoming enforcement. He says the enforcement will fulfill the promise to persecuted minorities. However, opposition parties accuse the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party of using the law for political gain ahead of elections. Critics argue that the act violates India's secular principles and can be used to target Muslims. Some fear an influx of Hindu immigrants from neighboring countries. Protests have already erupted in several states. Thank you for watching. Our news is produced by Muslim Network TV, which is a not for profit organization. We need your support for donations. Please scan the QR code on our broadcast or visit muslimnetwork.tv to donate now, so we can continue to amplify the voices of Muslims in Canada and abroad.